The bishop on d7 is not ready to go to f5 yet. The two pawn assassins on a4 and b4 loosens the king's position. The queen and rook on the c file creates a battery. Remove the defender. Both of black's bishops on the d file are snipers.
Ow!
This is why outside pawns are so valuable. This is an illustration of a discovered attack on the f7 pawn.
Ow!
In this particular position, I will be illustrating the discovered check. Now, if you look at the board, it looks like white is hopeless. My king is in check to his queen on c2, and my rook is en prise. But if you look closely at the position, my rook on e6 can move and block the check. Now, of course, he can't take because by me moving my rook on e6 exposes his king to check. So, block the check. Now he is in check. Now he's the one who loses here. Moves out of check. I won the queen and also the game. This is an abbreviated game that illustrates two distinct fighting styles between two armies. The samurai, which is the white side, and the ninja, which is the black side. It is the samurai who attacks first in this game and will invade ninja territory. Will the ninjas be able to ward off the samurai? Currently, in the position in front of you, there are two samurai intruders. The knights on c3 and d4, and they're making their way into our ninja territory to invade our campground. And since we are playing from a ninja's perspective, the black side, we have to understand that ninjas are experts in hit and run tactics, whereas samurais were trained in close up, hand to hand combat. So, as ninjas in this position, our strategy is to hit and run and to push white back so that he cannot penetrate our camp. The D6 square is the front gate to black's camp. With the half open D file and bishop on F4, knight on B5, and queen on D1, there are 4 attackers versus black's 2 defenders of D6. Again, the front gate is closed. The knight on A3 is offset at the moment, but this warrior is on its way to C4 in order to strike at D6 again. Samurais thrive in sharp positions. This move by white is based on the principle that says, if the center is blocked, then attack from the sides of the board. The knight on B6 threatens rook A8. The bishop on C4 has an X-ray along the A2 to G8 diagonal. Black uses the F file as an avenue of attack to white's king side. Notice the 3 half open files, the C file, the D file, and the F file. There is another X-ray on the B7 pawn, which is the rook on B5 and bishop D5. Both X-ray the pawn on B7. Take a look at the queen on C7. She has 2 duties. 1, she aids in the defense of B7, and 2, protects the D6 pawn. As an assassin, black cannot sit idle. 3 pieces are defending B7. We have to release one of them to put a threat on white. This move pins the knight to the rook on B3, which explains white's next move. Breaking the pin, the bishop makes yet another threat. If allowed to go to A4, would not only capture the pawn, but would pin both rooks. This move by the samurai knight is an important concept in chess. It is a dual-purpose move. It defends a4 and it attacks the bishop on d7 at the same time. One thing that black has to really be aware of is that white wants control of the d5 square. Likewise, one thing that samurais are good at is close range center attacks. So black has to really be careful. Now this knight retreat to c3 is not really a retreat. It is a discovered attack on the backward d-pawn. Keep in mind that moves that appear to be a retreat may actually be an attacking move. So be aware of subtle moves. Notice black's defensive technique. While keeping white under control, black is able to create a rook battery down the F file. Another hit by black on the F2 pawn. Now, let's give an evaluation of this position. The ninja, which is the black side, has nullified the attack of the samurai. And now the rook battery on the F file, in concert with the bishop on d4, puts tremendous pressure on f2. In addition, the bishop and pawn forms a strong grip in the center. And c6 to c5 will make black's grip of central control even stronger. Welcome, chess assassins in training. This is the second round of the Samurai Army the white side, versus the ninja, which is, of course, the black side. And since we are playing this game from black's perspective, our espionage mission is to infiltrate white's camp. Now, keep in mind that our technique or fighting style is stick and move, hit and run tactics. So let us begin. e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, e5, f to d7, f4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e3, bishop e7, queen d2, king side castle, bishop e2. Now, 9 moves have been played up to white's 9th move. I want you to take a good look at the tension in the center. Now, always remember this, that pawns are indicators of typical plans. But the squares we are targeting in this position are the d4 and the e4 squares. Now, white's last pawn move to a3 just gave us a tempo. We see that our bishops on the g1 to a7 diagonal are poised for capture. But our tempo is bringing our queen to b6. All right, this strengthens our grip on the a7 to g1 diagonal, and the game continues. Now, this bishop on b7 will shine. As a matter of fact, it will shine later on that diagonal, and on which its power of influence will be felt. Continuing. Rook a to d, h6, knight d4, knight d7, g3, ac8, bishop f3, knight takes d4, rook takes d4, knight c5. Okay, bishop e2. This last move by the samurai indicates his intention to remove the bishop off the h1 to a8 diagonal. And the reason being is because he intends to close that diagonal. We have a strong bishop on that diagonal. Now, what we are going to do, we're going to bring our knight to e4 because we want to force white to either open the d file for us or the c file. Now, as black, we are able to force open either one of these files, either by rook takes on d4, and no matter how white recaptures, if he recaptures with the queen, we have an open d file. If we take the rook on d4 and he recaptures with the pawn, then it will result in an open c file. So we have an open d file. One major purpose of a ninja infiltrating a castle was to gain information. So it was an espionage mission, meaning that part of the war plan was to spy on the enemy in order to figure out his plan. And that is what we're doing as black. So our next step in this process is getting the queen off the d file, because we want to take that file from white. Now that rook is indirectly defended. if queen takes the rook on d2, we push the pawn with a discovery. Okay, now we have to move the rook. Check. Now, it is black's 36th move. And for his 36th move, he has three options. We can capture the pawn on a3 with the rook, with the queen, or we can simply play queen to d2. We're going to look at all three choices. Queen d2 first. Now we play this move in order to force white to answer the threat of either queen takes bishop, and if bishop moves, then the king is checkmated on f1. So he brings the queen back, and we keep the attack going. We want to keep white defending until it's time for that final strike. And now we follow up with rook takes on a3. So let's go back. And now we're going to look at queen takes on a3. Now what this results in is an endgame, and it's a tactical battle now. So let's see what happens. Okay, an exchange of pawns. Okay, rook takes. So let's see. Bishop takes bishop would give him bargaining power and another pawn. Oh no, we can't do that. But king takes rook. But let's see here how this would go. Let's see if I can make a tactical shot here. Trying this. Oh well. That didn't work out too well, so taking it back. Okay, we're going to look at the first choice. Okay, the first choice was rook takes a3. Okay, that is the diagonal that we needed. That open diagonal, because now we have centralized both our rook and queen. We have a dangerous bishop on the h1 to a8 diagonal. We have a passed pawn. And then we also have the threat of queen to d3 check followed by queen f1. So this is black's effective defensive stick and move technique. Our defense combines both attack and defense. And that concludes the second match of samurais versus ninjas. Stay tuned for more of these videos.